flight. And 3 years later, the family of Sarah Burton pleads for answers. Also, 2 athletes from the Kansas City area won't be competing in the Olympics because of COVID.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The scene earlier today as Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin completed their first manned space flight. This is KOAM News at Noon. I'm Zach Dodge. This successful voyage comes 52 years after Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon and is being considered a big step forward toward space tourism. Skylar Henry reports.
Engine start. 2, 1.
Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos and his team made history this morning, blasting off to outer space. The first human passengers on his company's fully automated rocket.
I felt peaceful and serene and calm.
Surprisingly natural.
Surprisingly natural.
Yeah.
The Amazon founder was accompanied by his brother Mark, 82-year-old aviation trailblazer Wally Funk, and an 18-year-old Dutch student. Funk, who trained with the Mercury astronauts in the 60s, and Dutch teenager Oliver Damon are now the oldest and youngest people ever to fly in space. During the approximately 10-minute trip, they experienced majestic views and several minutes of weightlessness before returning to Earth.
We set out to create the safest human spaceflight vehicle ever designed or built or operated.
Bezos' space flight comes on the heels of fellow billionaire Richard Branson's launch earlier this month, ushering in a new era of commercial space travel.
These are not inexpensive flights. Only very rich people or governments are going to be able to put people on board for a long time. So the question is, can they sustain this as a new marketplace and keep it going long enough for economies of scale to kick in and prices to come down?
After a smooth landing, the excited and jubilant crew celebrated on solid ground. Bezos wants Blue Origin to go to the moon and ultimately colonize the cosmos. Today was just the first step. Skylar Henry, CBS News.
Blue Origin plans 2 more launches this year, the first one coming sometime in the fall. And Michael Hayslip and I, we watched it this morning, and that was pretty cool.
We did, and folks, it's one of those things where I want to kind of let you behind the curtain here. We have access to a bunch of live events, and we're privy to that. And it was one of those things where Zach and I actually stopped what we were doing and took this in, because it truly was amazing, and not only to watch the launch, but to watch the descent, just to see if a privatized company could pull it off.
Right.
Of course, this coming on July 20th, 52nd anniversary of Armstrong. With that being said, I think sometimes maybe we don't take space travel for granted, but you and I, Ron behind the camera here, we all grew up with space shuttles launching all the time.
Right.
Do you realize it's been 49 years since we've been on the moon?
That's kind of insane. I didn't think it had been that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened in your lifetime, my man.
Nope.
I know, isn't that something else? So for those of you born on July 20th, it is a milestone in and of itself of United States history. Zach was talking about the flight taking off near Van Horn, Texas, and whatnot. To give you an idea of exactly where that is, folks, I kid you not, it is in the middle of nowhere. As we go to the Skywatch Storm Track, I show you exactly where Jeff Bezos took off from, right off, just a little bit off of I-10. There's Van Horn right there. He's about 20 miles away from Van Horn. But anyway, if you want to do it as the crow flies, that's a good 670 miles away from Joplin, Missouri. So, you know, just for a little perspective there about how far that was away. And like I said, that's as the crow flies. That'd be about an 800-mile trip if you were to drive it. Beautiful and clear on this Tuesday, and we'll get to the particulars here in just a little bit, but it's going to be actually warm. I'd almost say mild for the latter third of June or July right here. Zach, coming up just a little bit, we'll break down our flood warnings and watches. Yep. I just wanted to kind of add that historical perspective to where we were, because you and I took the time to actually sit down and marvel. And like I said, Zach and I were actually marveling at the video that we saw. Yeah, it was really cool, and thank you very much for kind of taking us behind the curtain a little bit. It was really helpful. Thank you for watching it with me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Michael. Today marks 3 years since Joplin resident Sarah Burton was first reported missing.
Burton's family shared this message, which said in part, "3 years is an eternity with no answers and no word from our daughter. We desperately need to know where she is. The most important thing now is bringing her home." The family ended the letter with, "Sarah, we love you and will never give up." The Joplin Police Department asks that if anyone has any information, you contact them at the number on your screen. Pittsburgh State President Steve Scott announces he will step down from his position in June of next year. Scott has worked at PSU for the past 3 decades, including as president since 2009. In a press release, Scott says he's not retiring, telling the Kansas Board of Regents he is keeping his future options open. He does plan to stay in Pittsburgh and participate at university events. Authorities are looking for a person caught on surveillance robbing a Joplin bank with a weapon. Police say it happened Monday afternoon at the Great Southern Bank at 1232 South Range Line. According to police, the robber entered the bank, demanded money while displaying a weapon, then fled with an undisclosed amount of cash. The Joplin Police Department and FBI are investigating. Great Southern Bank is offering a $3,500 reward for the identity, arrest, and conviction of the robber. The Joplin City Council finalizes a contract for the 32nd Street widening project. Earlier this month, Council started the approval process for an $8.6 million contract to fund the widening project of 32nd Street from Schifferdecker to Central City Road. Yesterday, they finalized that agreement with Emery Sapp & Sons, Inc. They also approved on first reading a $520,000 contract for construction phase engineering services for the project. Since this was only the first reading, though, it will have to be approved again on second and third readings. And that's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News.
The government's top health experts testify on Capitol Hill about COVID-19 response. I'm Natalie Brand with what they're saying about where we are in ending the pandemic.
And later, tips on how to maintain your cast iron cookware for years to come. Topping Nation Watch, some of the nation's top lawmakers testified before Congress about the spread of the Delta variant and how that may impact the return of kids to school this fall. Natalie Brand has more details.
The head of the CDC told lawmakers that coronavirus deaths are once again on the rise in the U.S., especially in under-vaccinated areas.
Over the last week, we have averaged 239 deaths per day, an increase of nearly 48% over the prior week. Each death is tragic and even more heartbreaking when we know that the majority of these deaths could be prevented with a simple, safe, available vaccine.
Health officials say the Delta variant now accounts for more than 83% of all new cases.
The reason it's so formidable is the fact that it has the capability of transmitting efficiently from human to human in an extraordinary manner, well beyond any of the other variants that we've experienced up to now.
The spread of the Delta variant has prompted the American Academy of Pediatrics to recommend that children 2 and older wear masks in school in the fall, even if they've been vaccinated.
We continue to recommend that schools implement layered prevention strategies to protect those who are not fully vaccinated and encourage vaccination for those who are eligible. Masks continue to be a critical part of these layered prevention strategies.
Appearing on CBS this morning, Dr. Anthony Fauci was asked if the vaccine may be required for children returning to school.
That is not a policy right now, so don't anyone get confused by what I'm saying. What I am saying is that I would not be surprised that in the future, this is something that would be seriously considered.
More than 4 million children in America have contracted COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
2 alternate gymnasts at the U.S. Women's Olympic team won't be competing in Tokyo. Kansas City gymnast Kara Eaker is the first American athlete to test positive. Eaker has been placed in isolation, as well as fellow Olympic alternate Leanne Wong. According to information from USA Gymnastics, Wong was born in Kansas City and lives in Overland Park, Kansas. Iker's parents say she is vaccinated and asymptomatic. Wong is not vaccinated and was placed in quarantine because she was determined to be a close contact with Iker. Still to come on KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
If you love the idea of cast iron cooking, stick around, because today I'm going to show you how to keep your cookware in tip-top shape. Tip.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Well, the heat is definitely a-coming, but we can wait until the weekend for that because really coming off of yesterday, mid-80s today, high 80s, and the big factor is going to be number one, our breeze, number two, lack of humidity. So let's enjoy it while we can. Live look over 7th and Range Line in Joplin right now. See the traffic really beginning to pile in right there. Just a little bit ago, I took a look at it during the commercial break. There's hardly anybody there at the intersection. Only sitting at 81 degrees. Absolutely delightful. And you'll notice with that dew point of 65 degrees makes a big difference there as far as what our heat index says. So our temperatures range, we're still holding on to some high 70s right now, whether it be in Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, Nevada, Monette, only at 77 degrees. This is crazy considering it's July 20th. And like I said, a big factor is that humidity. We're sitting down there at 43%. So if we factor in the humidity and the northeast breeze, very negligible difference between what it actually feels like and the temperature. You move out a little bit farther to the west there, you're seeing some 85s in Neodesha and Independence. But look at Cassville. Heat index of only 79. We'll take that any day of the week. Now here's kind of the anomaly. Right up here, where you get the big ridge of the jet stream over the Canadian border. And it was about right there yesterday. So as this thing progresses from west to east, usually that's a big heat trap right there. I mean, look, we're talking about 85 in Minneapolis, 85 in Cody, 84 up there in Billings. Well, it's kind of a heat dome is what that equivocates to. It hasn't been able to really make it over the Nebraska-Iowa state line. All the heat staying up to the east. Now, as that ridge of the jet stream moves toward the Great Lakes, yes, things are going to rapidly change for us here as we head toward the weekend. But for the time being, a beautiful Skywatch storm tracker. But we still have flood warnings to talk about. So let's break it down from a fundamental standpoint. Number one, the Neosho down by the Miami Commerce Gauge. That flood warning has been extended until Wednesday morning. Right now sitting about 3.8 feet above flood level. Then as we go up to northern southwest Missouri, flood warnings have been extended all the way until Sunday. Now this encompasses the Osage, the Little Osage, and the Marmonton rivers. Despite the fact that they're only about 2.5 feet above flood stage, there's just nowhere for the water to go, as inundated as we've been. Luckily, all the rain for today is going to stay down to the Gulf Coast, make its way up to the Mid-Atlantic. For those of you who are tropical storm trackers may think, wow, it's been a while since we've talked about any tropical storms or hurricanes. That's because we've been extremely lucky so far this year. The only one that we've got cooking, we got to run out to the Pacific, and that's where we find Tropical Storm Felicia. At one time a hurricane, but even Guillermo, which succeeds it in the alphabet, it's now post-tropical as well, and we've got nothing to worry about in the Atlantic. As far as what we've got to worry about, it's not rain. Nah, it's going to be some good old-fashioned July heat. We'll get one more day in the 80s out of this. But Zach, as we were talking about, what happens when that ridge of the jet stream moves toward the Great Lakes? Oh my, oh my. Hello, weekend. Hello, humidity. We're going to be feeling like it truly is a taste of summer and late July / early August when those mid-90s roll around all through the middle of next week.
All right. As Doug Hetty likes to say, it's going to feel soupy, I'd imagine.
And I can't use that line.
Oh, yeah?
I can't no, that's his. That's his.
Well, I apologize, Doug.
No, it's okay. It's okay. That's Doug. Steamy.
There you go. Yeah, steamy. It's going to be a steamy weekend.
Steamy.
Thanks, Michael. We take this time now to honor today's four-state hero. Carrie Pennington served in the U.S. Army from 1965 to 1985. The Carthage, Missouri native was stationed in Germany and Korea. We salute First Sergeant Carrie Pennington, a four-state hero. Cast iron cookware is a great thing to keep in the kitchen, but it does require more care. Howard has some tips on how to do that quickly and easily in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Recently, I learned that many of you are curious about how to take care of your cast iron cookware. So I thought I'd show you how we do it in the test kitchen and share a recipe that's buttery delicious too. When you first buy cast iron cookware and get it home, or if you haven't used it in a while, you want to rinse it with hot water. Then use a stiff brush to scrub it, but make sure you don't use any soap. Then generously wipe the inside with a paper towel that's been dipped in vegetable oil before placing your cookware in a hot oven for about an hour. This is called seasoning the pan. After carefully removing it, let it cool, and it's ready to use. Once you've used it, you can clean it with hot water and a scrub brush. You can also use a salt scrub if need be, but never use dish soap or let it soak. Otherwise, you'll have to season it all over again. Once you've seasoned your pan, why not celebrate by whipping up a batch of buttermilk biscuits? They're so flaky and full of buttery goodness, they're hard to resist. To get the recipe for our cast iron buttermilk biscuits, all you have to do is visit our website. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a cast iron way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Howard's using a couple of different kinds of grease today. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at the four-state market.
I'm certainly hesitant to call it mild, but the fact of the matter with the humidity being so low that even if we do work up to 87 degrees, probably only going to feel like 88, 89. Absolutely delightful for this time of the year, and enjoy it while it lasts, because the time we get to Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be talking about a good old-fashioned July heat wave.
All right. And he really needs no introduction. But Dow Quick is here to tell us what's coming up tonight at 5.
A lot at 5. On average, babies, toddlers, and preschoolers could get as many as 8 colds a year. But a new device is giving parents the power when it comes to their child's health. Plus, northeastern Oklahoma hospitals are experiencing more COVID-19 hospitalizations than they were at the height of the pandemic. Bronte Sorotsky has what local health officials are seeing. And Pitt State President Steve Scott talks about his future after announcing that he's stepping down from the position. Hope you join us. KOAM News at 5.
And thank you very much for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.